Before we dig into today's episode, we just want to put a little disclaimer on here that we recorded this episode over the weekend, so it was before the announcement of the Indie World Showcase, which is happening on Tuesday morning, possibly by the time you're listening to this episode. It has already happened. We were unaware of it at the time that we recorded this episode. But lots of good Zelda movie talk in here, lots of good financial results talk. So enjoy the show. Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, there's going to be a Zelda movie, and we don't know how to feel about it. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the news about a live-action Zelda movie being announced. And then on Thursday, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Ocarina of Time by ranking the Ocarina pieces in the game. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. I was not expecting for there to be so much like Zelda stuff in the air.
Zelda stuff is in the air.
You got the 25th anniversary of Ocarina of Time,
which is technically next week, but it's gonna be Thanksgiving week, so like we gotta set that aside for Thanksgiving.
We got the live action Zelda movie. I'm glad that we've had a few days to sit with this news,
sure,
to process it, before we are going on the record.
That's true, because I mean, a lot of people going on the record and they're starting to, show their butts. You know what I mean? I don't even know what I mean. Like, whose takes about the Zelda movie are going to be the most embarrassing 3 years from now when the movie finally comes out?
Maybe it's ours.
Could be.
Yep.
Could well be.
Get a good look at our butts.
Please don't get a good look at our butts by going to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where you can support us if you like. We do not show our butts there at all. You can.
That's our OnlyFans.
That's our Mark, please. So you can go to onlyfans.com/no. If you support us on Patreon at the 8-bit or the 16-bit levels, you get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries that we put out. We have just finished our trip through NCS Goes Broadway by discussing a Little Shop of Horrors. It's a great little series. You should check it out.
That's right. And we have a special episode coming out in December. And then in January, we'll be kicking off NCS Arcade, where Patrick and I will be playing through Nintendo games, or really just games available on Nintendo Switch Online that we've never beaten before, and we'll be kicking that off with The Legend of Zelda. Again, another Zelda thing.
Another Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap, which I'm excited to dig into, and you should dig into it with us.
Look, and that's a Nintendo published game. Capcom developed, though. Is that a Nintendo game? Is that a Capcom game? We don't know, Mark. We just don't know. I kind of stuttered like halfway through your name. I said like Mark, like I had a moment of panic.
Look, I said that we had a few days to let the Zelda movie news settle,
shook,
but
yes.
Yeah, we're still recovering.
If you would like to get in our Discord where people are talking about the Zelda movie, all you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and request an invitation to the Discord, and we will send it to you. You can get in there and talk with us and have a good time. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. First things first, of course, Tetris Maximus Cup this weekend.
Yeah, there was no, I've got to be honest, there was no of course for me here, because I'll just go ahead and tell you what I was playing this week. I've been playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Oh.
And I am on the like final level.
The final badge challenge, yes.
Yeah. And I've been playing off and on for about a week, like ever since I finished the game.
Yeah.
And it is totally kicking my butt.
Yeah.
To the point where,
It's because you're showing your butt.
Spoilers for the last level, because I want to talk about specifics. I know you've beaten it.
Yes.
But so I need to express to you where I am. And so, yeah.
Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
Is it the dash starts with dash running?
No, that one is fine.
Okay, so
Oh, yes. I mean, that
yes.
is the start of that.
Yes.
Yes.
So the dash running, and then what's the second part of it?
So dash running, and then it's the
Then it's
jump
the spin jump, and
Yep.
then it's the grapple, and then it's invisible.
Yeah. Okay. So previously, the bane of my existence was the spring jump.
Yeah.
Hate the spring jump badge in all forms, but
I
it
keep
really
hearing this.
didn't-
I don't I understand that it makes it like you have to maneuver very specifically, but I really like the spring badge.
I'm happy for you. And so did you find that particular challenge like easier then? Because okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I do like that the level is really hard, but I like the sense of like, oh, I am getting better at this.
Yes, totally.
You know, and so what I did is I went into, man, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
So let me start with the problem, and
Yeah.
then I can tell you my whole journey with it.
Thank you.
So the problem where I am right now is I can do the bullet betties, no problem.
Mhm.
I can do the spin jump, no problem. I'm having a really hard time with the grapple.
The grapple's tough. I went through a couple different like phases of figuring out how to and it's really just that first part. Once you get to like the other side and you just got like the vertical climb, that part's easy.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm having trouble with.
With the
where
vertical?
the part so I'd make that first jump and then pull my like self up or whatever. And then there's a part where you have to jump down and grapple to a specific point because otherwise it pulls
Yeah.
you into a spiky.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten pretty good at making that jump fairly consistently, but it's the next part, which is getting over to the one that's parallel to it,
Right.
and then doing the vertical climb. I think once I hit the vertical climb
Yeah.
part, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I haven't even hit that point.
I
yet.
mean, are you clinging back onto that like lava guy when he's not lavaing?
like clinging back onto
Because
the
that's
lava guy when I'm
that's
not.
what I so like you grab onto that spot where it's not where there isn't the spiky, and then you can either try to like jump immediately over it or like back towards, because there's like the enemy in there, like the things that like glow as lava. They're not always lava, right? You can touch them sometimes, and you got to like grab onto him and then bounce back over.
Huh.
Let's take a look at it together.
Yeah, because
after this, yeah.
maybe I'm not even sure. Well, I'm gonna have to go through the bullet betties and the spin jump in order to
Sure.
get there. But
Also, aren't those the missile megs?
what is a bullet betty?
I don't know.
I don't. A bullet betty might not exist.
Yeah.
Is that not a thing? Maybe yeah. It's the missile megs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missile megs. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what happened? And so I have been trying to do this for like a week.
Yeah.
I went into that level with maybe like 40 lives, which was a terrible idea. And so I worked my way to the missile megs
Mm-hmm.
and then ran out of lives. Like after I did that, maybe like tried it like 10 times or something.
Yeah.
So ran out of lives. So then I had to buy a bunch of lives and then start all over. But which was fine because I have reached the point where like I still died getting back to the missile megs.
Sure.
But I was
But not like 100 times.
not like 100 times. It was not as bad. Although you get to the point which is they get you still because you're like, oh, I know how to do this. Like the part where you have to do the vertical climb, like the wall cling
Yeah.
one, where you can jump up a wall twice.
Yeah.
So that it's like, oh, I could do this in my sleep. So then you get sloppy
Yeah.
and you make one mistake
And then
and
you're
you're
ruined.
like, oops. And so but I've gotten to the point where like I have the 2 of the purple coins, I'm at the bullet betties.
Yeah. Right.
And so I was like, I really want to beat this before the Tetris Maximus Cup, because once I quit out of this, I'm going to have to start all over.
Right.
And so I was really putting it off. And then I was finally just,
You got to live your life.
and that's exactly how I felt. And I wasn't having fun anymore. I was tired of hearing the music.
Yeah.
I was tired of hearing the talking flowers. And so I was like, I'm just gonna put this. I am gonna be done with this for now.
Yeah,
I do want to go back and I want to beat it, but I think I need space away from it
sure.
in order in order to do it.
That when I was working on the final badge test challenge, whatever, that was the first time while playing the game that I like put on a podcast where I was like, I need something else to engage my mind while I'm doing this, because otherwise, like just getting the sensory experience of playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder at that point had gotten too much.
I was like waking up with the dun 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 dun, like the ground theme in my head. Also, I've got to say that level super ugly. No reason it needs to be.
Yeah, that's true.
It seems like they could make it visually more appealing, but they don't.
I mean, I do. I will always love the like the Goombas in the background, like watching you. I think that's always very funny.
Yeah, that is funny. But anyways, so I did play the Tetris 99 Maximus.
We are done talking about Super Mario Brothers Wonder now.
But it was a struggle to decide: do I want to do this? Do I want to? Do I want to basically reset my progress on this level?
Yeah.
In order to go play it, but I do because I didn't even play the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like the Wave 6 tracks.
Because you're just trying to get through Wonder.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, if you stop before the final challenge, like I think that's fine, especially if you've gotten like the challenge that you want out of it. But so yeah, you I assume got the theme. You're still working on getting the theme.
No, I did get the theme. I've got to say this one, like I'm looking forward to the game. The theme felt kind of weak.
Oh, I liked the theme. I thought I think it's really funny that the like very sad music plays when you lose. It's like the Mallow's Lament or whatever it is. Very funny that it's like, no, just play the saddest possible music when you lose a match. And I'm just a sucker for the battle theme, and we're just excited to hear it. It's also interesting that like at least as it's presented in Tetris 99, it seems like there are more sections to the battle theme. So maybe the music won't feel quite as repetitive if they're changing textures kind of like throughout. So I'm very excited to hear that music in context on Friday.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like right away.
Very soon.
Speaking of living in like 1996 and just playing a game from that time, I'm still playing Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, I was wondering if this was going to be like a one and done.
No, it is not one and done. It was not like, I mean, it kind of started as just me being like, I want something comforting and old, and maybe I'll put it away for good, when Mario RPG comes out. But like, I'm just having a good time with it. I'm out of Midgar now, and like on my way to Calm, and just like advancing the story past the point of the material that's in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Which is also nuts. I got through Midgar because I know it, and I'm just like jamming on the buttons to get through in about 4.5 hours. I think it's the fastest I've ever gotten through Midgar before. And I'm just having a blast. Like the version of it that's on Switch, everything is like upscaled and like very clean looking, and so like I'm just seeing all of these hilariously chunky low poly models in all of their glory. And just really, really loving every second of it. And like when I sit on the world map and just like let the music play, I'm happy. When I start the game and like the Final Fantasy music is going, I just let it play for a little while. And it's just been like a sensory feast for me. I'm really having fun with it.
That's really fun. Are you using any of the like options that they include to speed up the game or battles and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So there is if you click in on the left stick, it puts the game at 3 times speed. And if you click in on the right stick, it restores your HP, MP, and puts everyone's limit breaks at max. And I only do that when I'm like in like an annoying spot where I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I can't believe I'm here. Like, this could be a thing that kills me, or even just like takes a little bit longer than I want to do. So I've maybe engaged that like 3 times. And then otherwise, if I am like the second a battle starts, I click in on the thumbstick to just like make the loading into the battle happen faster. And anytime someone starts doing like a spell or something, I click it in. So yeah, I'm using the speed up a lot. But otherwise not really like there aren't the same sort of things of like double the experience or quadruple the experience or whatever, like there are in the Pixel remasters. So, yeah, speeding it up is mostly what I'm doing there.
And then you did have a chance to check out the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Wave 6 tracks. Is that right?
I did, yes. Sarah and I have played them a fair amount. And the tracks are fun. I think you and I will talk about it more once you've had a chance to play them as well. But one thing I wanted to point out is that this update comes with the music player, and so I went in to check it out because I have had many thoughts about a Mario Kart 8 music player, and it's what you think it would be. But it's a little strange that you have to like select everything by track and not by music track, right? Because there are obviously pieces of music that are the title screen or the character select screen or like all that kind of stuff that isn't represented by a track icon on the on the thing.
But can you still listen to those?
You can listen to them by going to those menus, but they're not actually
they're not
there
part of
in
the music player.
right? But when you are listening to a piece of music from a track, there is occasionally, how sometimes in those tracks there are like two different versions of the music. When it's like, oh, you've gone into this part, so like the music sounds different. You can toggle between them by pressing Y.
Oh.
And like you'll see like a little prompt in the lower right corner of the screen, being like, there's just like a little like switch, and you can push like Y to change it from version A to version B, which I thought was cool because it does it live. It doesn't like start it over or anything. So you can just like hear the new textures applied to it, which is a really neat little feature.
Yeah, that is cool.
But yeah, the tracks are they're fun. I don't think any of them are like blow me away special. But it's a fantastic just undertaking to have all those tracks added at this point. 96 tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Just bonkers.
Just crazy stuff. All right, Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing this week.
Today, Tuesday, November 14th, Hogwarts Legacy is released on Switch.
Finally coming to Switch, huh?
Finally on Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And then Turok 3, Shadow of Oblivion is also released. So this is like a remaster of the 2000 Nintendo 64 game that Night Dive Studios had announced earlier this year.
They made 3 of those things?
They made 3, a Turok trilogy on the Nintendo 64.
And Mark, of course, where Turok originates, right?
Comics.
Yes, that's right. From the Valiant comics, Turok.
Amazing.
Weird.
Then on Thursday, November 16th, the King of Fighters 13 Global Match Edition is released. King of Fighters 13 from 2010, but this version, which is releasing on Switch and PlayStation 4, has like rollback netcode,
yes,
and improved lobby matchmaking and things like that.
Right. So basically what they're doing with this is instead of putting out a new King of Fighters 13 or like a new version of it with like more characters or different moves or rebalanced whatever, it's just addressing the like modern online niceties of fighting games in 2023, which is cool because like rollback netcode is a make or break sort of thing for a fighting game. It can be really choppy and annoying to try and play one without it. And this is just that for King of Fighters 13.
And then on Friday, November 17th, Persona 5 Tactica releases. The Shiver, Fry, and Big Man Amiibo release,
which I have pre-ordered.
And then Super Mario RPG,
which I also have pre-ordered.
Yeah, I also have that pre-ordered.
It's sitting on my Switch right now. I picked it up with a voucher.
Me too.
I feel as though I've lost track of my vouchers.
I think I have bought like 2 vouchers, so 4 games.
Yeah, 2 sets of vouchers.
Yeah, and I believe it was Zelda and something.
Mario?
No, I actually think it was Kirby that I turned on once and then was like, oh yeah, I don't actually want to play this. And then Might Wonder and Super Mario RPG.
Did you get Pikmin?
Not with a voucher. And same with Wario. I picked both of those up, but I didn't use vouchers on them.
Right. Well, in Wario, you shouldn't because Wario is only
it's
$50. Right. So you're cheating yourself. if you get Wario as part of that.
Yeah. So like I feel like I will probably get another set of vouchers for, like Showtime, the Princess Peach game, and
Right.
something else next year, probably. But
Another code.
yeah, if that's voucher, I haven't even even looked. Yeah,
it is.
But anyways, that's what I spent my vouchers on.
And those are the things that make sense to spend the vouchers on, because we know that Mario versus Donkey Kong is a $50 release. So we always just gotta, Nintendo's trying to trick you to using your vouchers on games where you don't get a discount for.
So did you use your vouchers on Pikmin 4? So was it? How did you spend?
Here's the thing.
I feel like it's like, how did we spend our summer
right.
vacation?
Right. I've lost track, which is now bothersome to me, because I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna need a voucher so I can get Super Mario RPG as part of vouchers. So I bought a set of vouchers, and then I redeemed one to pre-order it, and then I still had 2 vouchers left, and I was like, uh-oh, I just have 2 vouchers left.
Like 2 vouchers is in 4 games,
no,
or
no,
2
no.
vouchers is in 1 game?
One.
Or sorry.
No,
2,
you did it. Stop it. 1 set of vouchers for 2 games.
Yeah. No, 1 voucher for 2 games.
That's what I said. 1 set of vouchers for 2 games.
Because you buy not. Okay. Sorry.
Buy not what Nintendo can buy for you.
Okay. Mark, am going to the eShop, and I'm going to buy a set of. I'm buying a set of vouchers.
Yes.
Okay, so 1 game takes 1 voucher. It's not like you're buying 1 voucher and you get 2 games with that 1 voucher.
Okay, now what I said was I bought 1 set of vouchers for 2 games, which is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you spent $100.
Yeah.
$99.99.
Yeah.
And then you got 2 games out of it.
$99.98, but yes.
Yeah, and then you got 2 games out of it.
Uh-huh.
And that's the only vouchers that you've.
No. So I definitely did it for Zelda. And I think I did it for Mario Wonder. But I must have also done it for Pikmin, because I bought, but maybe just forgot about Pikmin, because I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna need another set of vouchers for 2 games to get Mario RPG and something else later. But I redeemed a voucher, got Mario RPG, and then realized I still had a full uninterrupted set of vouchers left to spend.
Okay, got it. So does that mean you can get 3 games with vouchers still?
Yes, but one of them is Mario RPG.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
So you have bought 3. You spent like $300.
I don't know.
On vouchers is what we're. I mean, I said 200.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna spend more. I'm just openly saying that, but
yeah. No, and look, that just means we're saving. Every time you buy a game with a voucher,
point.
You save $10.
Yeah,
$20 if you're buying Zelda.
Yep.
So, why were we talking about this? I'm very excited for Super Mario RPG.
Yes, me too.
I'm a little bit. I'm not gonna cancel my pre-order for the Splatoon amiibo, but I am kind of like, why am I doing this?
Got caught up in the hype.
I got caught up in the hype, and I always get them.
I mean, look, I'm not telling you how to spend your money. You do it however you want, but I gotta say, I don't think you'll regret having the big man one.
And then what would be the point in not getting the other 2?
Right.
So I'm just gonna get them. I'm just gonna keep the pre-order.
And is it a set?
No, they're all 3 separate packages, which is a little strange to me. But like, cause like, why would you go out and just get one of them?
Well, and you also have. Do you have all the other amiibo one?
Oh yeah,
or not amiibo? Sorry, all the other Splatoon.
Yeah.
I mean, again, spend your money how you want, but I think you should just get them.
I don't think you want me to spend my money how I want. I think you want me to buy these things, which of course I want to do. All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I'll talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, look, last week we talked about pumpkins, just pumpkins. This week we're going to be talking about corn mazes. Mark, do you have much experience with corn mazes?
I feel like I've done a corn maze maybe 3 or 4 times in my life.
Yeah, I would say that I am about in the same place. But there's one, and now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember if it actually is a corn maze, or just a maze. But at the Dole Plantation on Oahu.
I have also been to the Dole Plantation on Oahu.
There we go.
And done this maze. I don't think it's a corn maze.
Right.
But it is like a plant maze.
It is definitely a plant-based maze. And you have to like go through and like punch, like use a hole puncher with different shapes. And it's a pretty good maze. It's pretty big. And when I was living in Hawaii, I think I did it twice. I got bored so easily on that island that I would go to the Dole Plantation twice. Yeah, go ahead.
When I was at the Dole Plantation, I started reading like about the Dole Plantation and why it exists, and basically the history of the United States like taking over Hawaii is super grim.
Of course.
And it's really just kind of like Herbert Dole or whatever his name was didn't want to pay, like wanted to pay less in like import fees or something.
Yep.
And so just use his influence. It kind of sucks.
Oh yeah. No, I mean 100%. Most of what has happened to Hawaii kind of sucks. Or just straight up sucks.
I like the idea of corn mazes much more. Like the idea of doing a maze.
Yes.
Seems like it should be really fun. Because I like puzzles. I like escape rooms, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like it rarely lives up to the expectation.
I mean, it's
of a hedge maze.
There is an episode of The Simpsons where Lisa Simpson goes to military school, and Bart is helping her like work on their final like graduation challenge, and she's frustrated, and he's like, "Hey, I thought you wanted a challenge," and she responds, "Duh, a challenge I could do," and that's always how I feel about a maze situation or like a puzzle that's too hard for me, where I'm like, I love this sort of stuff, and then I can't do it, and I'm like, this sucks. Which is, I want a challenge I can do.
I mean, I guess, there's always also like the expectations of a fantasy series or, where there's mythical creatures in a hedge maze and all of that. But then when you're actually doing it,
it's just other people doing the maze.
It's just other people doing the maze, and people are like cutting through the bushes, and
that'll bum you out. Like seeing people cheat on the maze. I don't care for that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a hedge maze?
A hedge maze.
Like, have you gone up to that Shining Hotel and gone?
No, I have been. I've been in a hedge maze before that wasn't like corn based, but it's basically the same experience.
Yeah, I guess we should actually talk about specifically corn mazes.
Well, little late.
Jeez. Okay, we screwed that one up. We were accompanied today by the Berliner Philharmoniker. All right, Mark. It's a doozy. Let's get into the news.
Last Thursday, Nintendo revealed that a live-action Legend of Zelda movie is in development.
This is Miyamoto.
Yeah. Patrick, of course, is referring to a message that Nintendo of Japan posted on X that says, quote, "This is Miyamoto. I have been working on the live-action Legend of Zelda movie." Start all over.
Yep.
This is Miyamoto.
Hold on. This is Miyamoto.
I have been working on the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda for many years now with Avi Arad-san, who has produced many mega-hit films. I have asked Avi-san to produce this film with me, and we have now officially started the development of the film with Nintendo itself heavily involved in the production. It will take time until its completion, but I hope you look forward to seeing it.
Which, we get a little bit more information. We'll talk some more particulars, but kind of rolled out without much fanfare here, right? Like these are some tweets from the Nintendo Japan account.
Yeah, and they sent out a press release, but yeah, not a ton of fanfare. I'm trying to remember what it feels. It feels, based on no information, similar to me to how the announcement of the Super Mario Brothers animated movie was handled as well.
Yes. And in both cases, there are things that were like rumored for a while before they're actually officially announced. and then months or years later, actually getting like casting information in the form of a Nintendo Direct.
Yep. But here is the information that we know from the press release.
Let's run down the information.
Sources.
This is Miyamoto.
So Shigeru Miyamoto is producing with Avi Arad, and Avi Arad, you know his work from, he was like a co-producer on basically all the
all the Spider-Man
Sony
movies,
like
yeah.
Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, well, and is like one of the like big IP guys over at Sony. Like, was a producer on the Uncharted movie, and like lives in that sort of like nerdverse stuff for Sony. And as a filmmaking studio, Sony doesn't have access to too many different like nerdcore properties. They're not Disney, they're not Warner Brothers. So they don't have like those big like tentpole comic things outside of Spider-Man, which is probably the biggest. But like he's had a hand in most of that, and also produced before he was like aligned with Sony exclusively. Produced the like early X-Men movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I guess notable that it's going to be produced by Nintendo and Sony Pictures, with Nintendo financing over 50%, and it'll be distributed by Sony Pictures. So, with the Super Mario Brothers movie and Illumination Entertainment, they had this relationship with Universal, but
Right.
Interesting that for this they are not doing that.
Well, and it's also interesting that like they had the relationship with Universal from the theme parks as well, or like I have to imagine that those things happened in tandem together, right? And that the parks are Super Nintendo world, but like they're Mario, right? There's also some Pikmin in there, but they're Mario. And there's no like, no one was ever like, wow, I can't wait till the Zelda stuff comes to this. It's never going to. But it's just interesting then that they brought that to Sony, and then also the fact that it is Sony when it's like PlayStation is a competitor, right?
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
according to the like Microsoft Activision acquisition trial stuff, no,
Yeah.
Nintendo is kind of considered its own weird universe. But yeah, I feel like just another point that a lot of the like console culture war stuff is just total
nonsense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I wanted to pick your brain about this, Mark. So obviously working with Universal before, working with Sony now, does it seem weird or just like an impossibility that that they're not pursuing anything with Disney?
Oh, I think it's very purposeful.
Yeah.
Because I think Nintendo has always seen itself, like I feel like Miyamoto's talked about Mario being compared to Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And I think that they want Nintendo IP and like Mario and stuff to be as big as Disney stuff is. And so I think
without using Disney?
think they see Disney in some ways as like a competitor.
Yeah.
That they or somebody to
this
like compare
working
themselves
with
to.
Sony.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
That's my read on it. I feel like it's very I feel like it's purposeful.
Yeah. It's just like it's just fascinating when like, and this is a little bit of a down year for Disney at the box office, but like it's the first of those really in a long time. So yeah, I mean I wonder if it really just is not wanting to or wanting to stay in competition with Disney, but also just like that they can be the belle of the ball with someone else.
I think that's true, and maybe it's not in competition with Disney. I think it's maybe better way to express this is like they want to stand apart from Disney. Right. And if Disney does have so many of those big Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Marvel, and they're like
maybe
Pixar
just get
stuff.
swallowed up.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think that they want to remain distinct, and a way to do that is with a company, like Universal or Sony or something that doesn't have so many of those properties.
Yeah. It's it's also that Nintendo isn't just looking for a distributor for these movies. They're like actively filmmaking partners. Like I was just in my head like drawing the comparison to Studio Ghibli and how those movies are distributed in the U.S. by Disney.
They used to be. They're not.
But they're
anymore.
not anymore. Yeah, that's right. but yeah, they definitely were for a while, and like they would still like release something like Spirited Away or Howl or whatever, like within weeks of Pixar movies, and like they just sort of get swallowed up. Like those movies don't kill in the States in a way that maybe they should. So I don't know. Maybe Disney wouldn't have been like the best caretaker for them anyway.
So we also know that it's going to be directed by Wes Ball, who is probably best known for the Maze Runner films, and he has an upcoming movie next year, the new Planet of the Apes movie, so Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes, and so obviously Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is going to be a CG heavy, like motion capture kind of thing, and if it is anything in line with the tone of the previous Planet of the Apes movies, that it'll be like kind of serious, right? Like just trying to divine like a tone for this movie, right? And maybe the director here doesn't matter as much because it's the last movie was so like producer driven. But it'll just be interesting to see. Wes Ball was also the director on the Mouse Guard movie that was canceled when Disney merged with Fox a couple of years ago. And Mouse Guard is a comic book series, like graphic novel series that is like little medieval mice like fighting ancient wars and stuff, and it's cool and it's cute. And like when they were shutting down that studio, they were doing like little tours of all the miniatures and stuff, and it seemed like Mouse Guard was going to be a really cool flick. Obviously, how it would be executed, we will never know. But like more than anything he's actually done and put out, the Mouse Guard of it is something that actually, dare I say, it gives me hope for this movie.
Not in the press release, but it was later reported that Derek Connolly is writing the screenplay. Best known as the writing partner of Colin Trevorrow.
Yes, so he's got a writing credit on the Jurassic World movies.
And that's pretty much it. Like
he also has a story credit on Rise of Skywalker, but only because he and Trevorrow worked on their Duel of the Fates script, and then that got torn down and rebuilt as Rise of Skywalker.
So yeah, I mean that's the facts as we know it right now. No release date, no like release window, nothing like that. No cast was announced.
Yes.
There was a little bit more of Miyamoto just kind of restating what we already know during the Q&A portion of Nintendo's financial meeting last week, saying, quote, regarding the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, I know we face an extremely high hurdle in producing a film that will not disappoint the global fan base. With this challenge in mind, I have been discussing this project with Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions, Inc., for about 10 years. Movies are just like games, and that you need to spend a lot of time working on them until you get to something you're satisfied with. Movies therefore need sponsors who can lend their full support until completion.
Sponsors.
For the production of our movies, Nintendo itself acts as a sponsor. To produce the movie, we were able to assemble a group of people who are willing to commit time to the production until we come up with something we feel confident about. For the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Chris Meledandri, the founder and CEO of Illumination, and I had creative control for all aspects of movie production, and together we continued with production until we were satisfied. For the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, Avi Arad and I are taking plenty of time to prepare. We hope to release something good that will meet everyone's expectations, so please look forward to it.
We hope to produce something good. Okay. All right, that's all we know about it.
Yep.
Mark, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I am how am I feeling?
I mean, start with just like a gut. Are you like, hey, or are you like, That's an
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just like, look, I did not enjoy the Super Mario Brothers animated movie, and so my expectations for this are very low.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually probably great because then I'm in a position to be like pleasantly surprised. But yeah, my expectations are low. I think my immediate thought is what I want this to be more just like thematically. is what I feel like we haven't really had since the, maybe like out of Force Awakens or something, where it's like I would like it to be or really any of the Star Wars movies, because I think Star Wars does a good job of this, but I think the original Lord of the Rings trilogy does a really good job of this, where they're just like, they are like high fantasy, but they're hopeful and big-hearted,
Yeah.
and it's about like the power of friendship, and that is the sort of tone that I hope this movie to take. But otherwise, I don't really have very high expectations for what this will turn out to be.
Yeah, I mean it's the thing with Super Mario Brothers is that it's such a like trippy endeavor that in adapting it to a cartoon, like an animated movie, that like they just leaned into like the trippier aspects of it and things that don't really make sense, and blocks floating in the air and power-ups and all that kind of stuff, and like sort of justify it, and then it's like, kind of who cares, it all just like works and holds together. um and like that movie didn't really work for me, but I kind of get why it like the shape of the movie works for people. Um Whereas like Zelda's just a little bit more grounded in like a kind of reality. And I mean, the like you say, maybe like the sincerity and like the big heartedness of Lord of the Rings would be like a way to go here. Um, but it's also like Zelda's very weird, and like knowingly funny a lot of the time. And so I'm just curious to see how that translates to film.
Yeah, what like aspects of what Zelda is, because Zelda's taken many forms,
Totally.
like what aspects of that they draw from, and uh, as far as like casting goes and stuff like that, um in a e- it's just hard. I don't know. I don't even know what
It's
to
weird to have
expect.
any wants. Even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because like especially they got to be going with like a young adult Link, right? And not like, because in so many of the Zelda stories, Link's like 11 or
Right.
something. Like, and I don't think we're gonna have child Link carrying this movie, right?
Do you think with the success of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like that being,
I think it has to be.
I think so too.
That had like be the blueprint for the movie. Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. We'll talk about it when we get into the investor call in just a little bit here. But they talked about like the shift in the scale of sales from Twilight Princess, which sold well, right? Like 8 or 9 million copies, to Breath of the Wild, which is like 4 times that, and that is then being replicated, not to the same degree yet, but with Tears of the Kingdom, that like, no, this new kind of Zelda is the popular thing. So like, yeah, I think that's got to be what the movie's based, what the movie will draw from.
Yeah. But to your point, yes, I think like a young adult Link.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, even that, it's kind of like, I don't think they can get like a big star to you know what I mean? Like, I think it's going to be a relative unknown. Um, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be some, disappointingly predictable young actor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that with the new the Super Mario Brothers movie, I think it didn't it, I mean, it's difficult to be like a backseat driver for a movie that made over $1 billion
Yeah,
and
that's
is
right.
the second highest grossing animated film of all time. So obviously, like I feel a little bit like an outlier in not really enjoying it. And so to say, hey, it makes sense I think that the Super Mario Brothers movie could have been successful without named voice actors.
Totally.
Is kind of a silly thing to say when it had celebrity voice actors and was enormously successful. But that sort of like stunt casting doesn't like feels wrong for Zelda.
Yeah. Yes. But maybe,
what do I know?
Yeah. What do we know? Indeed.
Right.
Well, and like, but like you also have to wonder, like, were there any of the celebrities cast in the Super Mario Brothers movie that like increased people's desire to see it? Right. Like maybe Jack Black, but like
I would say Jack Black. Yeah, maybe is probably the one.
And like everyone else, like no one's like, oh, I got to see the new Chris Pratt movie. It's a Mario animated movie? Okay, I'll see that. Like you see it for the IP. And then I think Jack Black is the one thing that makes like hardened Gen X types be like, oh, maybe I'll check this out. Was one of the early things for me where I was like, hey, maybe this will be okay. But yeah, it does any of that make sense for Zelda? And it's like I don't think so.
I think also maybe it's just the limit of my imagination that I can't. There's nobody who springs to mind that I'm like, do you know what, this person would be perfect for this, and this makes a ton of sense. Like there's just I guess I just don't know who that would be.
Yeah, I in our Discord posited Griffin Gluck from American Vandal. He plays Sam, like the friend of the filmmaker. If you've seen that, he's young and cool and smart and does a lot of like quiet acting. So I could see him. But it's also like, I don't know, like I would much rather it be someone I don't see coming.
Yeah, I'm also already, not to be like super curmudgeonly,
yeah,
but I'm in anticipation already exhausted of the Link speaks for the first time, like headlines and
me too.
Discussion and all of that stuff.
And I'm exhausted by the like Tom Holland, Timothy Chalamet takes. I'm just kind of like, all right, everybody, like, we get it. You found like the skinny white dude, the slightly androgynous skinny white dude who's famous. Like, okay, okay, you did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's we'll obviously have a ton of news on this throughout the years. How long do you think before this movie comes out?
That's such a good question. My expectation is that a live action movie will move faster than the animated movie did, like in production time, but I still think we're years away from it being released.
Right. Well, and especially given Wes Ball's filmography, including this Planet of the Apes movie, this thing has to have like CG Gorons and Rito and Zora. Like, we're gonna get all the creatures in this, and they're all gonna be like mocap computer generated characters. So like we can say it's not an animated movie, but like it requires that much animation as much as like the Mario movie. So I think we could still be 3, 4, 5 years away from this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because there's, for like big blockbusters, there's always, you can't be as secretive with a live action movie as you can with an animated movie, right? Like if you're filming on location, people
with actors,
like telephoto lenses, you know what I mean? So I think this
how
movie,
much of this do you think is going to be like in a volume like situation?
I would hope not very much.
I would also hope that, but
like the typical about there's so many visual effects in every single movie. It's just a matter of how obvious they are,
right.
And so I would hope that it doesn't have the feel of a some of like the volume productions that feel like claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's gonna be visual effects like up the wazoo.
Yeah. We just need bigger volumes. That's what we need.
I'm sure they're working on it.
We should take that ball in Las Vegas and turn it inside out. Yeah, the sphere. I forgot what it was called. Turn it inside out. Make that one big volume.
Wait, why would you need to make it turn it inside out?
I don't know, because it's also screens on the inside. So.
All right.
Just turn it inside out. That's all I want.
Yeah, but that's Zelda movie stuff. It'll be interesting to learn more as it unfolds.
We sound defeated. Do you feel defeated?
I feel resigned. Is that maybe the right term? I really do. I feel like so I'm hoping that this is the lowest moment. This is my end of Act 2.
Right.
And
this is Miyamoto.
And that as the information about it comes out and casting announcements and we start seeing, like promo images and stuff, that my excitement will increase. But at the moment, I'm kind of like, I was shocked. I was surprised. I was surprised that it's live action.
Yeah.
That was unexpected to me.
Yeah. On the flip side, I'm glad that Illumination isn't doing a Zelda movie.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're right. You know what? Count our blessings.
Count our blessings.
I do think that's true. Although I'm sure they would find a way to work Take On Me in there.
It might still happen.
Do what? You're right. We have no idea what the tone of this movie is going to be.
All right, we got to move on. Just 1,000-yard stares from both of us.
Well, the Zelda movie news was released. Oh, sorry, I have to ask. So I was shook, when just like I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was not anticipating it. I was surprised that it was live action. I was surprised. Yeah, the like Avi Arad was involved, that it's like Sony and all that kind of stuff. It was like a genuine like, wow, like this is really happening. When you heard the news, were you like, whoa? Like, did you need to take a second, or were you like just taking it in stride?
No, I think I think resigned. Just the way that you're describing it is just like oh man, all right, here we go. Here's like another like cycle of this. Which look, we getting old? Yeah, definitely. We're definitely getting old.
We're definitely getting old.
But I mean, like we before we started recording, we were talking about like new Marvel movies and or like the Marvels specifically, and like the just other stuff that I recently said that like the Ahsoka show has to be good or I'm gonna take it personally, and it wasn't, and I didn't. Which is like I don't know, it all has like a dulling effect on my general enthusiasm for things when they're just keep being like bad versions of stuff. And I'm not saying that Ahsoka was bad. I ended up like liking it in the end, but there's a lot of just bad in it that I eat to get to the part of it that I do like.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be my relationship with Zelda.
I know, and like I want to be excited when Nintendo announces a new movie, because that is in theory really exciting, right? Like a new way to experience these things that I enjoy so much. But I think there was a brief period when the first Mario Brothers movie trailer was released,
yes,
that our hopes were kind of like up.
Yeah.
But before that, we were kind of dreading the movie. We didn't really like it when it came out, and that's kind of how I feel, and so it's like that to me is like the baseline for what a Nintendo movie is going to be, which is something that is not for me, that I don't care for. And so that's kind of a hard place for me to kind of like reckon with.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, and it's the thing that like it should be fine, right? Because it's like I don't go to Nintendo for movies. Always been true.
Yep.
And even in their games, I don't expect them to do like cinematic storytelling, right? And when it happens, I'm like checking my phone or like pushing a button to see how I can skip a cutscene. Because all I want to do is make Mario run and jump around and stuff. So like it should be okay. It's just like when the movie, again, the Mario movie made over $1 billion. So like they're going to keep doing these until they don't make $1 billion. And I mean, I don't know. Do you think that the Zelda movie, Zelda live action has a chance of hitting those same kind of heights? Maybe we don't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I feel like it's really hard. It's really hard to say without knowing more, because I think that Zelda fandom is different from Mario fandom.
I think that's right.
Like Mario fandom crosses all ages, like everybody knows who Mario is, and people are probably familiar with Link as a icon or a concept, or
Zelda.
Zelda.
But that's a good point. I think like kids young enough don't like know or love Zelda, and people like old enough may not the like misses that. Like I don't necessarily assume that people my age in my peer group know or care about The Legend of Zelda.
Right.
Like it's
I mean, I do think Breath of the Wild, and
that's true,
to a extent to be seen, like Tears of the Kingdom like changes that equation a little bit, but it doesn't feel as like can't miss for this movie is for everybody as the Super Mario movie is. This feels more it's obviously Nintendo's second biggest like known property, but I do think it'll be a little bit more difficult of a sell than the Mario movie is.
I think so too. And yeah, it'll just be very it'll be fascinating to see what kind of tone they land on here. But like the last video game movie that Avi Arad produced was Uncharted, and that movie made me mad. So I don't know. I don't have high hopes.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I think we could be, and hopefully we'll be shown to be at like our Act 2 low point, and the triumphant third act is when we buy a ticket to the Zelda movie and like it.
We'll see.
Yep.
And we'll talk about it on the show. So that's all there is to it.
The Zelda movie news was released on the same day that Nintendo reported their financial results for the first half of their fiscal year 2024. And as part of the report, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa gave a presentation on the status of Nintendo's business and their strategy. And I think what we're going to do here is just kind of like dive in to the presentation that he gave. I do have to say, one thing that I think is really interesting about the Furukawa era of Nintendo is how much of a face Satoru Iwata was. Like, he was in presentations, he was in Nintendo Directs, he was talking directly to customers a lot. And Furukawa does not do that.
No.
He is not like he is the public business face for a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Because he is the president of Nintendo. But from like a consumer point of view, you don't see him in Nintendo Directs. He's not like doing that sort of stuff.
He's not a character.
He's not a character.
Yeah.
And yet I feel like under Furukawa, Nintendo is in the best position it has ever been in its existence.
Yeah, just from like a pure business standpoint, but I mean also like kind of creatively, and who you attribute that to, I guess you did some weird alchemy, right? But like he is the dude at the top.
Yeah. Just like the way that, like, going through this presentation, when I was reading through it, I was just struck with how like quietly diversified Nintendo has become in a way that I don't think they've ever been before. And so, previously it was very boom and bust for Nintendo. They had a huge hit with the Wii and DS, and then went through really hard times when the Wii U, like really hard times relatively.
Right, because the 3DS was still pretty successful.
But now they're getting to a point where they just had like a $1.5 billion grossing movie. And if that is something that they consistently are able to do, every few years, that puts them in a very different position than when they were relying solely on hardware.
I mean, I do wonder how sustainable that is, right? Like, how much do you think it cost Nintendo to make the Mario movie?
I don't have any idea.
Because they work on those things forever, right? And I don't think we'll ever get like true budget numbers for like what Nintendo spent to make that movie.
Right.
But like if Miyamoto's been talking to Avi Arad for 10 years about this Zelda movie, like,
well, but who knows what that means, right?
That's
like
true,
they probably weren't
they weren't in weekly meetings about it.
Well, yeah, and they probably, I don't know if they were like drawing on budget for that or if it was more, just like talking back and forth. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I just like the observation from Miyamoto that like a movie needs a sponsor or a game needs a sponsor, and he's like, Nintendo is the sponsor for this Zelda movie. Like, I think in some ways they're acting as like the patron for the patron and the artist in one.
I think you're right, and that feels like a very conscious choice from their experience, with the Mario movie in the 90s, where they're like, if we're doing this, like
we are doing this.
We're doing it. Like, we're footing the bill. We know that this is an area of expertise, so we are teaming up with people who are experts at doing this. But we're going to foot the bill because we want creative control. At the end of the day, we want like say in what goes out or not.
But just when that takes as long as it does, it means that it just like costs so much money. I just wonder about that. And here we are talking about the Zelda movie.
I mean, Patrick, I gotta tell you, I think this is gonna happen a lot.
I think you're right.
It's like we tried to not talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie, in the lead up to its release, but it was just impossible. It becomes such a important thing. And I mean, we're gonna keep talking about it.
Yep.
But at least I will say this: if the Super Mario Brothers movie had come out and had been a bomb, I don't know that they would have moved forward with this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or what it would look like. But maybe this is giving them the confidence to, like, make the Zelda movie a distinct thing. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just
Yeah,
like, great. Like, we were able to do the Mario movie, just like the games. We were able to do the Mario movie, but Mario is its own thing. And so Zelda needs to be its own thing. It's going to be live action. It's with a totally different production team. It's
right.
with a totally different studio. Like, that at least, that gives me hope that they're, like you said, that it's not another Illumination movie.
Yeah. Well, I wonder also if they're like setting up, like the Mario stuff, because there's rumors of like Mario sequels and like a Donkey Kong spin-off show and like all this kind of stuff at Universal. I wonder if like they're spending so much time and so much money at these different studios so they can just set them up with like the framework to continue forward and being successful with that IP. And that's also what now they're starting with Zelda at Sony, so that like in a couple years Sony can make a movie with less involvement, with less investment from Nintendo, that still has like their still has Nintendo approval on it. And if like they're seeing like each of these first entries as like the investment to get that started.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like when you say like less investment from Nintendo, I feel like Nintendo's strategy is monetarily they will always be the primary investor in these movies. And then I also think that maybe Miyamoto's involvement would decrease, but that like I'm sure there were other people from Nintendo other than Miyamoto who worked a lot on the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Totally.
And maybe just like we see with the games, somebody else steps up and kind of becomes, I'm gonna be the producer of the Mario movies, and this person eventually becomes the producer of like the Zelda movies.
Yeah.
And so they just continue what they've learned to do very well in games and eventually try to reproduce that in films as well. But back to the
report,
financial reports and the Shitara Furukawa era. So there's a few things in here that really stood out to me. We of course got sales numbers for Super Mario Brothers Wonder for the first time. That was, I have the presentation in front of me, so
it's 4.3 million units,
which was what in the first
2 weeks.
2 weeks, and that's the fastest selling Mario title ever.
Biggest release for a Super Mario title is how they phrased it, and that's global sell through in 2 weeks. So that actually means not just like shipped to retailers, but actually sold.
And then we also got an update on Switch hardware, which has sold 132.46 million units.
And with the software sales number that goes with that,
1,133.23 million units,
which is huge. It's such a good attach rate, even for something that is sold as many as it has. That it's like 8 or 9. It's like 8.5, right? Pieces of software per unit sold is pretty remarkable, especially when you consider that a lot of those are probably second Switches, right? That people like. I've bought 2 Switches, and that hasn't increased the number of games that I bought.
Right. And then we also got an update on the Tears of the Kingdom sales, which they are saying sell-through of 17.6 million units as of September 30th.
Yeah. And I already mentioned the difference in the scale of sales. There's an interesting where it comes to the Zelda series, and that Twilight Princess was like 8.5 million, and then this huge jump up to Breath of the Wild, and then they have an interesting chart about the rate at which the Zelda games sold, the most recent ones, which I'm just gonna skip ahead here to on the presentation. So that Breath of the Wild sold 8.49 million units in its first 2 years on the market, but then over the next 3 years sells another 22.66 million. So that it is sold a lot at the beginning, but dramatically sold more over time, making it a long seller.
Yeah. And they have a chart in here as well talking about that they've seen that for multiple series.
Yeah.
Where like many Switch titles have become these just kind of like evergreen, where they sell a lot in the beginning, but they just continue to sell and sell and sell.
Right. Well, and moreover, there's another chart that like is just showing like Animal Crossing, and it's like they sell okay, bam, here's the one on Switch. Or Smash Brothers, they sell okay, they sell less okay, bam, here's the one on Switch. And part of that is all these games had releases on Wii U, so like the spike up to Switch numbers is huge. But you also see it in 3D Mario, where it's like Sunshine, meh, Galaxy, like a nice little like peak there because lots of people owned a Wii, and then down for 3D World, and then up super high for Odyssey. So,
yeah, even comparing like something like Mario Kart Wii to which
yes,
sold incredibly well to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Our 8 Deluxe is just in a totally different universe.
yeah. And it's just like that's the trend for all of Nintendo's franchises, seemingly.
One of the thing that Furukawa reiterates continually in the presentation is that Nintendo's strategy is to increase the number of people who are encountering Nintendo like characters, the Nintendo property,
Yes.
and then using that to drive them back to their integrated hardware and software platform. And that like when they're doing movies and they're doing theme parks and they're doing licensing deals for merchandise with Lego, like that video games remains at the center of their business,
Right.
and they want to do all of that to touch people and bring them back to video games. And there's a really interesting part in here where they talk about how something that I had never considered before.
This is the map.
Talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie, and first they show where Nintendo Switch is like officially available, and it's a world map, and you see there's like most of North and South America, Australia, most of Europe, and China, and then there are small pockets in other places in the world like Africa and Southeast Asia. But there are huge swaths of the world where Nintendo Switch hardware is not officially available.
Right.
And then they have a second chart that shows where the movie was available, where people could watch the Super Mario Brothers movie, and so much more of the globe is accounted for. And they talk about how people were encountering Mario for the first time, and the movie was like
Wild.
Successful in those regions.
Yeah.
You take for granted that living in North America, that Nintendo products have been available since we were kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that there are so that was just really striking to me, is like, oh yeah, if your strategy is to get as many people as possible familiar with these characters, video games are like just one kind of limited way to do that.
Right. Well, and just like the age of the medium of film means that it has just penetrated deeper markets, right? And they're just markets that video games have not like made their footprint yet.
Yeah, because like the barrier for entry for a movie is so like the cost to entry for somebody is like go see a movie versus spend hundreds of US dollars on a video game console.
Right, that only plays video games, and then you got to buy the video game.
Yeah.
So the DLC, which is now up to $35.
So yeah, I had just not really reckoned with that fact before, like that consideration that movies would be such a impactful way to introduce people to Mario or get people interested in Mario for the first time. And they show that they saw that positive impact on the sales of Super Mario games. So not just the like titles on Nintendo Switch, but also like the mobile titles like Super Mario Run and Kart Tour.
So for the Mario software on Switch, it's like up 30%, 1.5 times the amount that like the growth year on year. And then like 40%, 1.4 times as much for the mobile stuff. And they on the slide they show Super Mario Run and Mario Kart Tour, but like it's gotta just be Tour, right? Like I love Run, I love Super Mario Run, but like I think the culture has passed that game by.
But I think that's probably true. But think about regions where Nintendo Switch isn't available.
Yeah,
that's
true.
But Mario Run is available on mobile phones.
Yeah.
If you you saw the movie, you liked the movie, you might search on your phone to see what
Yeah,
apps are
that's
available,
true.
and like there's Run and Tor. I guess what I'm saying is let's not give up on Run just
Okay,
yet.
I won't give up on
still
Run. I love it so much.
carry a torch for this game. Um,
And then you want to talk about the cash utilization a little bit?
yeah, I know it sounds so like boring, but it was.
But hey, we're an hour and 10 minutes into the news episode.
It was something that really struck me because they talk about, like licensing and Nintendo Live and things like that as other ways to get people to get Nintendo characters and ideas in front of people, and then all driving them back to this idea of a Nintendo account, which they reiterate over and over and over again. They want to build long-term relationships with customers, and the way that they're going to do that is with the Nintendo account.
Yes.
And they showed there's a slide that shows, like we would know then their like purchase history and things like that. And that makes me, it doesn't necessarily mean that the next Switch hardware is going to be backwards compatible, but so I do think I'm like,
You want to hurt me worse than a Zelda movie is you make the next Switch not backwards compatible.
I do think that I'm reading too much into that slide because
Read in.
Because you could use purchase history for a lot of different things.
Sure.
Just like being like, oh, Mark bought WarioWare Shake It, so next time we're going to a WarioWare game comes out, we're gonna send him an email.
Right.
Or you could be like, oh, Mark bought WarioWare Shake It. Well, we know that, so when he buys his new Switch, it's available for him.
And Mark knows the name of the game is WarioWare Move It, and that's fine.
Is it not Shake It?
No.
Oh, wait. Is Shake It the Wii?
It's the Wii Wario Land.
Okay.
Yes. And also maybe they're just looking at it and being like, oh, these people buy the vouchers without actually knowing what they're going to use them for? We should just sell vouchers.
I, of course, should have known that it was, Nintendo just become a voucher company. I of course should know that WarioWare Move It is called WarioWare Move It because all I ever think about is like that song
You like to
from
move
Madagascar. Yeah.
I think it's a real song and that it is also in Madagascar.
Okay. All right. Got it. Yeah. So let's talk about cash utilization.
And also, look, Mark, I'm sorry, just to jump in here. It's one of the Nintendo Switch games where the title ends in an exclamation point. There aren't too many of them, but WarioWare Move It is one of them. Yeah.
So let's talk about cash utilization.
Okay. Yeah.
This is so in the slide, they are showing something from like the November 2022 corporate management policy briefing, which I know, is there a more sexy phrase in the English language?
We're going deep here.
But I think why this struck me is that it's broken out into like different areas. So they have one, which is building software assets, which they have broken out into two sub areas. Games, which is expanding the game software development team within the Nintendo group. And then non-game entertainment, so other visual content. That have business affinity with the game business.
Got it.
So for games, they are saying like up to in 2022, they are saying up to 100 billion yen would be spent on expansion of development facilities for games and acquisition of developers as subsidiaries. And then for non-game entertainment, they were going to spend up to 50 billion yen. And this is production of visual content and acquisition of a visual content production company as a subsidiary, which we saw them do.
Right, with Nintendo Pictures Ltd. So just like for context, if some of those numbers came too fast, that means about half as much money, like a full third of the building software cash assets going towards the visual content side of it, of things, and not towards game development.
Yes, but then
yes,
you have this whole area. So game development, 100 billion yen. Foundation for maintaining and expanding our relationship with consumers, 300 billion yen.
Right.
So they point as examples of this, establishing a joint venture with DNA, which we've also talked about before, that joint venture is set up primarily to improve Nintendo accounts.
Yep.
Consolidate brands on e-commerce sites. I don't know what that means. Expanding the Nintendo Switch Online service, establishing Nintendo eShops in Asia and South America, and then expanding directly managed physical stores. And so just to put, like, to see the numbers between game development, which is they say over and over is Nintendo's core function, basically, and to see 3 times that amount being spent on other things is pretty stark.
It's pretty stark, but this is for November, right? So, or for 2022, right? Which means that like there are like we see what some of those expenditures are: establishing the joint venture with DNA, the Nintendo Pictures Ltd, which is actually in the other the 50 billion yen category. So like there are some like big things that they spent money on last year. But yeah, it does seem like a massive shift in priorities.
Well, and the way I'm reading this is that not that this is like the number that they were spending in that year. It's that this is their like plan as to how we are going to spend cash. And they even say in like the bullet points that they're going to spend more than this. They're not providing new numbers, but these numbers fluctuate, and they're going to end up spending more on the game development stuff because they decided they needed a bigger second headquarters, and so that's going to cost more money. Like things like that. Right. But just to see kind of like, I think of Nintendo as primarily a game company.
Right.
And that is how they present themselves. They talk over and over in this presentation that they're doing this other stuff to drive people back to the games. But when you look at where they're spending their money,
right,
so much of it is going to the other things that I feel like Nintendo, not quietly, but you just don't think about them like doing all of that other stuff.
Right. And it costs money to change the direction, change what your company can do. And I'm sure they're going to have to keep making those investments going forward. But it is just a fascinating look at like the shift in their priorities.
Last thing, there's a slide in here talking about their core business, which is integrated hardware and software entertainment. And they have a slide. They have like the slide has images of a bunch of different Nintendo products, from an NES Classic Edition and to a Game Boy and a Wii Fit balance board, Mario Kart Live, and there's like so many things on here. And I was going through and I was like, oh, I own like 80% of these, and I think you own like 95% of these.
Yeah, I think of what's on here, I don't own or have never owned, I guess, because I don't currently own a Wii, for example. So Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, don't own that. Switch Lite, don't own one of those.
This like Pokemon pedometer.
Yeah, the Pokemon pedometer and the Mario Kart Live, I don't own either of those. But everything else, yes, I own. Or have owned at some point.
Yep. Beautiful.
And that presentation is available for anyone, anywhere to check out.
Finally, the 11th Splatoon 3 Splatfest has been announced. Here's the message from the Splatoon North America account on X.
Okay, let's hear it.
I just thought it was funny. Squid Research Lab Splatfest research team here with new findings. The 11th Splatfest theme will be, what's your go-to greeting? Handshake, fist bump, or hug? As scientists, we're disappointed that terse nod was left out, but we'll observe from 4 p.m. Pacific time on November 17th to 4 p.m. Pacific time on November 19th anyway.
Well, Mark, to that I offer a terse nod to you. And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much for listening. Get in the conversation about the Zelda movie. We are going to be talking about it forever. Get in the Discord. All you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We'll send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.